Hello, everyone. I am super happy to be joined again today by Dr. Hoda Kilani. We had a great discussion previously, and we decided we weren't quite done talking yet. My name is Leah Fink. I'm with allthrive, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live. I would encourage you, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please go ahead and add them, and we'll try to address them during our talk. Thank you so much for coming today, Hoda.
Thank you so much, Leah, for having me again on your LinkedIn Live. I am very excited today because I get to turn the tables and ask you the questions. But before I go, I wanted to know that our conversation last time is now available on YouTube. If you want to go, if you missed it and you'd like to check it out, just go on the Rise Career Fit YouTube channel and you should be able to find us talking more career talk. But yeah, today, Leah, I want to ask you questions. And just like we did with me, we're just going to get the audience to know a little bit about your background. How long have you had allthrive and what did you do before that?
Yeah, so my background is actually, it started back when I was a teenager. And due to some lucky experiences I had with personal development, I decided then that that was what I wanted to do when I grew up. And that was a very kind of broad idea, but I wanted to help people. I wanted to help them understand themselves better and figure out how to be in the world in the healthiest way possible. So over the last 12 years, I've been doing that in various ways. Through my schooling, I did a degree in outdoor leadership because an experiential component is really important to me. And even, I would say, on Zoom, I found great ways to bring experiential learning to people. I also did social work, and I'm a registered social worker in Alberta, and that was to understand the mental health aspect that I think more people are becoming aware of and is so important to understand when you're thinking about who you are and how you want to be. And, you know, and then a whole variety of roles. I've worked with competitive ski coaching. I've worked with disadvantaged youth. I've worked with youth in summer camp situations. And then right before running allthrive, I actually worked at and then supervised an addiction and mental health program that was in the wilderness for youth. So that's kind of my range of experience is in all these pieces of really helping people through experience understand more about themselves, about who they are, who they want to be, how they are in relationship. And that's really the passion I've brought to allthrive. And that's what I do now is I help people through workshops, especially whether that's online or in person, and we all learn together.
I know you've held a few workshops. Like, can you give us one more recent workshop that you held that you felt was really successful and that people loved it? And as we think of these experiences that you're sharing and that you're building, because you do have a rich background that you're bringing to these workshops, as you just mentioned. And so any workshop that pops up that you'd like to talk about, just really quickly.
Well, the two that come to mind, one in the past, one in the future, is I recently ran True Colors. So it's a personality type workshop. And what I really love about it is the amount of empathy it builds for people. So not only self-empathy of, you know, everyone has traits that they judge themselves for, right? I'm too loud, I'm too quiet, I don't take enough time to make decisions, I'm too slow making decisions, all of those pieces. So it's actually understanding other people are like that, and we can actually meet them where they're at with empathy instead of having to just rely on our own worldview. So that's one that I find really exciting. And upcoming, I have a workshop on boundaries, which I think is just an essential topic for everyone. This workshop specifically for women. But if you look at our world right now, where our work and home lives are so intermingled for so many people, and it's so easy to suddenly, you know, work on the weekend when you don't want to, or someone asks you to do something, or even people's comfort with COVID, that people pressure them and say, oh, you should do this, you shouldn't do this, safety wise. So yeah, I think those are a couple examples of what I'm working on right now that I'm really passionate about.
And these two workshops indirectly really lead to careers and what we want to do with our lives, I guess, to what we want to do with our lives, which links to career. And one of the questions, because just because you said it, like I knew what I wanted to be, is there a question that we should ask or not? There's a lot of debate about it, is what do you want to be when you grow up? It seems to be you knew what you wanted to be when you grow up. Is that a question we should continue to ask, or should we stop that?
Yeah, and it's, you know, you and I have had this conversation a couple times, because where we overlap is in working with youth and really helping them understand themselves. And I think it's still a valid question to ask. I don't think anyone should stop asking, you know, Timmy if he wants to be a fireman when he grows up or anything like that. But I think we often stop the conversation there. And I think that's unfortunately what's hurting a lot of people right now, because when you only think of a career as your future, you start defining yourself by that. And that's great if let's say that example, you want to be a fireman when you grow up, you go to school and you do the right training and you become accepted as a fireman, and that's great. You're super happy because you've decided I am a fireman and you're proud of it. And that point at when you meet a new person, and one of the first questions as adults we ask is, what do you do? It's the same question, right? Not what do you want to be, but what do you do? And that's, things go along smoothly, and then maybe suddenly you're injured. And as a fireman, there's a lot of physical capabilities you need to be able to meet. And suddenly maybe you can't do the same job you wanted. Or with the COVID pandemic right now, a lot of people lost their jobs. They lost their dream career, which they put all of their energy and really who they were into that. They really defined themselves, because that's what we do, define themselves in that role. And that could be, that could be anytime. And that could be anytime too. During a financial downturn, people lose their jobs and they lose that livelihood. And what's happened, I think, is when we attach so strongly to an action, the action being the job, then when we lose the ability to do that action, we lose some of ourselves and we lose our happiness. And suddenly we're not motivated. I mean, I think, having a purpose, a drive forward is a huge protective measure against depression. And whether that's like full depression or just feeling so low and sad about yourself, I think it's a really important piece that we start asking beyond just what do you want to do and stop defining ourselves just by our roles.
That's a very great point. And I work with a lot of moms who are stay-at-home moms who want to go back to work. And they only identify as mom. And we have to really dig deep to tell them, as a mom, what did you do? You really have gained a lot of skills. And like you said, for them, it's hard to see themselves doing more than, just let me just get whatever job. It's to say, no, you have built skills, through volunteering, through being involved in committees and as a stay-at-home mom. So then we're going to go back, though, a little bit, I guess, to the youth position. And I agree with you, even with youth, like if they try first one thing, and we hear a lot of stories, particularly with medical school, where they just want to get into medical school and then they try hard, they do so much, put so many hours, and then don't get in. And we hear about suicides being committed because they just identified as that program and they didn't make it. And so what can we as career coaches, or for you get to the emotional part of it, right? The emotional intelligence, I can call it, and you support them emotionally. How do you propose we support youth as they transition from high school or even within their high school experiences to real life?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, one piece, first of all, like I said, it's not a bad thing to ask that question. There is a point, especially probably in high school or that point when people are looking at university, there's a practical side, right? If you know generally you want to be in the medical helping profession, you're probably not going to go do engineering as a degree. So there is a practicality that you need to know those pieces. I think of two pieces when you ask that question, and one of them is, what kind of person do I want to be? Because that can link all of these different pieces. And then the other is, what is a deeper sense of purpose? Like, what is the meaning behind the work I want to do? So, when I talk about that first one, like, what kind of person do you want to be? I do truly believe that every day, every single person makes choices, and even small, tiny choices to giant choices that speak to how you want to be in the world, how you want people to perceive you, how you want to kind of be remembered in your legacy, as it were, how you want to help people. And when we're really aware of that, if we're aware, especially I think the value piece, what are our personal values? And so if you don't understand your personal values, it can be a lot harder to actually live them intentionally, as it were. I hope that makes sense. So if I know that one of my values, for example, is compassion, or one of my values is helping people, there's so many choices I can make throughout a day that support that value. Or if one of my values on the other side is adventure or creativity, there's so many choices I can make to live to that value. And when we live our values, generally we feel good. And when we don't feel good. But when you're not aware of it, you just end up kind of reaching out blindly in the dark and trying to find, what makes you feel happy or good. But that's essentially the kind of person you want to be. And that one, like I said, is overarching. I think that one could be no matter what field you go into would be relevant, but also could help you decide your field. So when you're looking, like if someone's working with you, if a youth is working with you, if they understand their values and what, like the kind of person they want to be, that can really determine parts of their career, components of their career. And I'm sure you've seen that a lot.
I agree with you. Like self-knowledge is one of the things I promote with my clients when they first sign up. Is we, like you said, we do talk about values and interests. I also try to expand it for them because as a youth, you know, you may not know your values and you cannot place it in the values. We use words such as beliefs. We use words such as, well, interest, skills, and so it's all about just getting them to know themselves. And once you start to know yourself, like one of the questions asked, what do you do every day? Like, where do you lose time? And I think you and I have talked about that before, is if you find yourself losing time reading a book, well, how can we build on that? And it's like you're saying, it's about building self-knowledge and then moving forward and asking more questions about that. And I think you sent me one note about that, is that how can we give them a sense of purpose if they do not know themselves, if they do not know what their likes, their dislikes. If they have to think about it, you know, I know that I'd like to have my coffee every morning, but if I don't think of my daily routine, I'm not going to be able to put this puzzle together and figure out what is my favorite part of the day. And it's that, to me, it's about reflection. It's about engagement in their daily living. So with your work, how do you bring purpose to the clients? And I know maybe your focus is not as much on careers as I am, but on life in general, and perhaps for seeking happiness. I don't know if I get that right, but you talk about, you know, experiences and finding direction in life, perhaps.
Yeah. When I just or with that, or before I answer that, as you were speaking, I think you brought up a great point. Someone asked a question on LinkedIn or made a comment, and I think you really spoke to it. So usually we know when we're 16 to 20 what we actually want to be, but get distracted by society or other people's expectations. I think that is a really great point. And I think when you were speaking to the part of, you know, you're so happy when you're reading, or here's what really brings you joy, what I like about your work is you help integrate that into people's lives. And for the person who made the comment, there are other people's expectations, totally. And I think in a lot of cases, like parents who might be funding your university, they are very valid. And there's so many ways, like this almost comes back to what I'm saying about purpose. Like you can live your life and you can live your joy in so many ways. And whether that's through your career specifically, and you can find the career that matches that and you're able to continue, or whether that's through the pieces of your life outside the career that help serve your purpose. Sorry, Hoda.
Absolutely. And we would go into the people's expectation. I think we went in depth last time in that when you're talking about people's expectations about parents who are paying money, and I was a parent paying money, if you can convince them of the value of what you're trying to accomplish, they will support you. I've seen it happen many times. It's just parents worry, and anyone funding you, actually, when you go to the bank and apply for money, they want to know what you're going to do with the money to see if it's worth it for them to give you a loan. And so that's where expectations could be tough on some parents. But if you come with a plan, and that's why I talk about reflection, we talk about engagement in your what you want to do, and show other people that what you want to do is worth it, they will get engaged. But I will take you back to the question I asked you about your work, and if there are any questions, we can always stop and go back, and I'll bring you back to this point. But yeah, how do you accomplish that in your focus on experiences and success in life?
Yeah. Well, so that is some of the workshops I run do focus more specifically on this sense of knowing who you are and what's important to you. And I think purpose is a big piece of that. So if people want to try this at home, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who might be connected with me on LinkedIn might have done some work on their why, the entrepreneurial why. Why is the work you do important to you? Why does it matter? And I think people can get there in a very big picture sense, though, with a couple questions. And one of them is I'd encourage people to just write down like 10 things that you are proud of, and you know the most proud of in your life, right? What was really so valuable to you that you felt that real internal sense of pride. I would also have you write down 10 things that bring you joy, and not just like a little bit of happiness, but once again, kind of ecstatic joy. That could be work related, or generally it could be family related. It could be about the fun activities you like to do, your interests. And also the other piece we can reflect on, I think, when we're talking about purpose is actually what things we dislike the most. What kinds of things hurt us in life? I know a lot of people base their purpose on the pain they want to help other people avoid. So people who are caregivers, for example, in hospitals might have seen a loved one suffer through that, and their real purpose is in helping people minimize the pain of losing someone, or in supporting people and getting back to health so they don't have that deep hurt. And so I think those are questions I would encourage everyone to write down. And from that, you can look at the values that come forward. From that, you can look at if there's common themes of importance. If family is coming up a lot, maybe your purpose is actually just around being able to support and serve your family. There's nothing wrong if you want to support and serve your family and the career you pick is about getting money to do that. I think that's totally fine, but there is that deeper why piece to it. It's not just, I want to make money for fun, although it might be fun to make money, but there is a...
I get a lot of young people who's like, I just want to be rich, and that's their purpose in life, rich enough to retire at 30 or 40. And that's a good start, like you say, it's a good start. You gave them family example. That's a great start, and you want to support your family, but you have to dig in deeper with more questions. Is that, okay, so how do you want to support them, and how much time can you invest in your work in order to put money to support them, and what other objectives you have in life?
Yeah, there's a lot deeper you can go into. You can keep asking, why is that important? What would you need to do? All of those pieces, but you do essentially get down to a statement. And I find most people's statements are about heart. They're about serving others in some capacity. How you want to influence the world in a positive way. And I would really encourage people to find that. I know, even though I knew what I wanted to do when I was young, it was only a little bit later when I actually figured out my purpose, which is more encompassing. And I've been able to use it to find more joy in my life and find more joy in my career, because it happened to line up. And, if you already have a career that you enjoy, you could probably look back and see how it's been reflecting your purpose and your values all this time.
Absolutely. And I was having a conversation yesterday, and is that about what do you want to be when you grow up? And one of the things we brought up is, even now as adults, you're not thinking what you want to do when you grow up, but what you want to do next. Like, are you happy where you're at? And these are questions that I think we encourage to always be asking. Okay, you've accomplished this. Is this the end? Or is now you want to move on to something else? So it is definitely a lifelong engagement in just in life in general, like in your life, and not just cruising is what I discourage that. I say there has to be some sort of connection with your life and engagement in it. What tips would you give to your typical clients, like that, who might come and say, I want to sign up for this workshop? What tips would you give to say about their, moving forward in experiences and choosing experiences?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it would be to be more intentional, to take the time to reflect. And, I personally believe everyone should know kind of their top 5 values. Like, what do they prioritize, care about more than anything? Because like I said, when you're in alignment with those, you're happy. When you're not, generally you're unhappy with yourself, right? You feel bad. I would say definitely take the time to think about what gives your life meaning in a big picture sense. And it's hard to describe these as quick tips and tricks. I mean, like I said, doing that brainstorming about purpose would be one of the pieces I would recommend. But a lot of it is work we do through a workshop and spend a lot more time going in depth. But then actually take the time every day to check in with yourself. This needs to be a consistent practice. I think a lot of people will do work on something. Maybe they'll go to a workshop, a self-development or professional development, and come back and be like, oh, great. And they apply it for a week. And I do really think that these kinds of practices are something you should be checking in with every day. How did I live my values? How did I live my purpose? What could I do differently the next day to try this out? And that's, to me, is like, that's living an intentional life. And that's how you thrive with purpose, not just have a purpose.
I love that. And that's where I wanted you to be headed with that answer. I love that you did that because I do that a lot. I attend a lot of workshops, particularly for growing my business and, for learning more coaching practices. And I take the notes and then I find myself, sometimes putting them aside. And so I do prioritize once a month to just go back and say, what did I learn in this workshop? And let's see if I can practice it. But even then, sometimes in these workshops like yours, where you get to fill out answers and then take these answers home, I think just reflecting on them, save them, for sure, save them. And even 6 months later, you say, okay, this is what I wrote 6 months ago. How have I moved forward? Because I was really having fun when I wrote them. And did I stick to them? Did I follow through on them? So that's one tip advice that I'd say, and I like that you said, is that don't follow it for a week. But if you don't want to do it every day, but I think on a monthly basis, it's fine to just go back, review what you learned in that workshop and build on it. Because it does help you to really, at the end of the day, live a happier life, I believe.
Well, and you're touching on one of my personal missions with my work is I hope that no one will ever leave a workshop I've done and not have felt they're already immediately able to apply the knowledge. And I think that's really where part of that experiential learning comes in, that it's not being told information. I mean, this obviously we're telling people information here, but it's them actually going through it, experiencing it, relating it to their life in a way that then they can continue using it. I mean, one of the reasons I like True Colors is there's so much encouragement for people to automatically be applying it right away. Whereas I know a lot of people have done personality assessments where they don't use them in their life again, right? They've learned information about it, but they haven't practiced with people about how to interact with that. How do you interact with different personalities? And so I think if people aren't able to have those experiences in a conference, if the conference is maybe a lot of information, like, right, you said you got a lot of information about coaching, that people intentionally build it into their day. And that's kind of what we're talking about. You might have to take the step to make it applicable to your life, so it's actually worth it for you to put that effort in every week, every month.
Exactly. I think that's I think it's a lifelong commitment. And I kind of was wondering, was there anything else you wanted me to ask about? Was there anything else you wanted to highlight about your work that we didn't dig deep enough, just for the audience to know you a little bit better and ask questions a bit to build on that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any particular questions we didn't cover. This is a hard topic to condense, so trying to keep it somewhere between tiny and huge is a bit more difficult. But I really hope people, take on and try some of these pieces. I'd love it if people comment, even if you're not seeing this video live later, about what your purpose is, what you feel your why is. I guess I could share mine too. So my purpose is helping people feel they're loved. And so that, I believe, any work that I can help people understand themselves better, improve their relationships so they have that sense, that's truly important. That came from my joy of facilitation and helping people. And it also came from the thing I was most proud of, which was helping people not choose suicide. So, that's a very deep, heartfelt thing for me. And I hope everyone can take some time and get that sense that they actually do truly feel something important in their hearts. And I do want to encourage people, especially if there's any parents here that are listening, to take the time to listen to your kid and help them discover these pieces. Like when they talk, what values are you hearing that they're speaking to you? When you see them take action, if they volunteer or if they have certain ways that they help their friends, like how are you cultivating that and helping them understand how they can build that into their career? And say, if you don't feel like you have the experience for that, we are running a workshop on the 27th, so coming up pretty quickly here, but there are still spots available. And it is focused on helping parents and teens really understand these pieces about each other and be able to talk about them. Hoda, you mentioned your clients the other day coming to this realization. I do truly think it can often be hard when we're in that situation to come to that kind of realization, and having an outside perspective like yourself, like myself, really can help people get to that point. So we will have the info for that as well in the comments, and please feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions or any way that we can help you with this information.
It was a pleasure interviewing you, Leah, turning the tables. But yeah, we love working together, and we would love to hear from you and get your feedback.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.